name is Senam Agboja Ajipong. I'm with Ashesi University. I serve as the head of the business department, and I teach as well. And I teach in the areas of entrepreneurship and project management. So I am here with Esther. Esther, if you can please introduce yourself.
My name is Esther Lai, and I'm a faculty with the business administration department. I teach finance-related courses. Yes, and I'll be your co-host on this session.
Thank you so much, Esther. Okay, so we will get started now. Now, the purpose of this session really is to have us engage along the lines of Africa's Agenda 2063, and we brought on Africa's agenda. We know that there's a lot of conversation that go on related to like the SDGs and other global goals, right? Other goals. The SDG is like the one, and Africa's Agenda 2063 focuses, sort of takes the SDGs and does like an internal view of what it is that our priority areas should be, what we should be following up on, and what problems we should be solving for our people to be able to achieve what it is that we want to achieve in this One Africa agenda. And so we chose to focus on the Agenda 2063 themes instead of the SDGs, knowing very well that, you know, it could potentially be exciting with how much we know about these the Agenda 2063 and how much we know about the themes, how much we know about what it stands for. And so we have a little trivia for everyone in the room. So EduCollab staff, our own team, everyone in the room, you are supposed to participate in this. So I would ask Stephen to please put the first question on the screen, and it's 4 questions, and we are going to grade each ourselves and see how well we are doing when it comes to knowledge of the Africa 2063 agenda. Stephen, please. For the first question, we had 3 people getting it right. The second question, don't worry, when I did this, I got almost everything wrong. The second question, we had 3 people again getting it right. The third question, hey, everyone got that right. Great. The fourth, 6 got it right. The fifth, 4 got it right. I think it gets better with age, right? Like just like wine. And the 6th, 4 people got it right. So thank you very much, and I hope this has given us a taste of, you know, what is contained in the Agenda 2063 and what it is that it stands for. Thanks very much, Ella, for that. Now, like I said earlier, our intention really is to have us engage on these themes and see if we can find ourselves with people who have common interests as us and are interested in undertaking some research together. It could be research that they are working on already, or it could be research that they are planning on working on, but all of it will help us to find collaborators, and that's really the essence of this session. And so I'll pass on to Esther, who would give us a quick overview of Africa's Agenda 2063. We all need this overview, I can tell. And then we will move from this point into breakout rooms to engage along these areas of interest so that we can start collaborations. And so Esther, please.
Hello, everyone. So I will just walk us briefly through the Agenda 2063 items, and I will share my screen. Agenda 2063 is simply asking all of us that where do we see Africa? What is it that we want to see when we think about Africa in the next 50 years? And that's a question I'm throwing to all of us. Where do we want to see Africa in the next 50 years? And this question is important because the Africa that was projected years ago is no longer what we have now. The number of war-torn zones we have are so much fewer. Things have changed, we've grown. But what are our aspirations as a continent? Where do we want to go? And how is that driving the sort of research that we do? And I hope as we go through the main aspirations of a united Africa over the next 50 years would find ideas and identify research areas we are already working in or where we could possibly work. So there are 7 thematic areas or 7 aspirations. And under each aspiration, there are certain goals there, and there are 20 goals in total that go under the 7 thematic areas. The first thematic area is, or aspiration that we have, that has been put together for us, is to have an Africa that is prosperous and based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. So we are looking at an Africa that is prosperous and based on an inclusive growth and sustainable development. There we are looking at achieving goals like high standard of living, quality of life, well-educated citizens, that is underpinned by STEM, science, technology, innovation. We are also looking at creating inclusive growth on the basis of healthy and well-nourished citizens, transformed economies, modern agriculture, tapping into our ocean resources and see how that can accelerate economic growth. And then one very interesting one, climate and environmental sustainability, how that fits into our inclusive growth agenda. The second key thematic area is an integrated continent that is politically united. So we are looking at what sort of Africa do we want? We want it to be one that is federal or confederate. Where should the power lie? In the body that oversees us or with the individual nations within the union? Then there have been in recent times conversations around having a West African currency, an ECO, financial union. What are our thoughts on, what are our aspirations around unitizing along those lines in terms of financial unity, integration financially and politically? What are our thoughts? The next one, which is the third pillar, focuses on good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. So how do we ensure that we have good democratic practices, values, respect for human rights, and then institutions that can transform the Africa we want, the Africa we envisage? The fourth pillar has to do with peace and security in Africa. So we're looking at a stable and peaceful Africa, an Africa where stability is preserved, an Africa where the peace and security architecture is functioning very well. So that's what the fourth one is. Fifth one is cultural identity. What is our identity? What is our heritage? To what extent does that shape where we want to go over the next 50 years? Sixth one has to do with having everybody drive the growth and development we envisage, especially women and youth and children. So to what extent are we deliberately involving everybody in the Africa we envisage? The seventh pillar is positioning Africa as an influential and global player and partner. We shouldn't just be the Africa that is left to and spoken of and treated as an aid instrument. Handouts are given to us. What we envisage, to position, what are our dreams? We're positioning ourselves as a powerful player in global affairs is concerned. So these are the 7 thematic areas and the goals that are there. And these thematic areas are going to guide our conversations. You might be interested in working in any of these areas, or maybe a combination of the areas. Whichever one is paramount for you. When we go into our breakout rooms, you just select that particular one. If you have so many that you are confused about which one you'd want to work on or you are currently working on, you could just select the one that you are most interested in and then just join, just so we can get the conversations going. The goal is that in our breakout rooms, we will share what we are already doing and see other people's interest and how they can fit in to help us. One, for instance, I work in areas that look at inclusive growth together with institutions. So there's a crisscross there. So if someone has a lot of knowledge around that, then I could collaborate with the person and then we could go ahead and do some research towards propelling us and where we want to go. It could be, there's also growth using STEM. So people who have knowledge in all of the science-related areas, you would want to be able to work together with them to achieve the growth that you're looking at. So that is it. This is an overview of the Agenda 2063 aspirations and the goals that come with it. And the breakout rooms have been labeled with brief names to represent each of the aspirations. So please join the breakout room.
Just wanted to keep the conversation going and reiterate a point that Esther made. And thanks, Esther, for showing us the agenda items. And if you can continue showing your screen, just so that people can read as we talk through them. So the whole purpose of this conversation really is to have you go into a room with people who have a common interest with you based on the theme. So it could be a prosperous Africa, integrated continent, good governance, peaceful and secure Africa, the cultural identity, and Africa whose development is driven by people, etc. So it could be any of these, and the expectation really is that you will find yourself with people who have a common interest with you. And it doesn't matter whether you are in the same discipline, it doesn't matter whether you are an academic, it doesn't matter whether you are a stakeholder in the education space. It is about engaging to see what it is that you are working on and how other people who have common interests with you can collaborate. So if, like the example Esther gave, if let's say I am interested in higher ed, early childhood education, for example, and so I end up going into, Esther, which room will I go to?
So now you'll be in one where we are looking at well-educated citizens.
So thank you very much. That's why it's good to have experts on your team. So my interest in early childhood education will have me going into a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Because one of the indicators in there is education and a good quality education. So once I go into this room and I talk about what it is that I am doing, somebody else who is doing some work in perhaps, I am interested in curriculum development for this group. Somebody else who is doing some work in something else related to this group, or perhaps something in education altogether. Perhaps we can collaborate on looking at the quality of education across the various levels of education. So early childhood, K-12, higher ed, and come up with a way in which we can improve education all across and perhaps make it a bit more African-centered, right, while we do it. And so it is just going into these rooms with a very open mind and selecting, just having conversations around what works. I am curious to know if there are any questions as to what the responsibilities are in the room. And we will want a situation where one of you volunteers to moderate the session. There will be a rapporteur in the room, but one of you volunteers to lead the conversation. So please, this is not limited to only faculty members, but it's actually open to all of us because we all come to higher education and to education generally from different perspectives. Yes, we will share this information either in the chat or post a link to it in the conversations in the various breakout rooms for us all. And so, Elom, if you can please open the breakout rooms now. Thank you so much. And we'll be in the breakout room for about 15 minutes. So yeah.
Thank you very much. And we hope you had very fruitful discussion. So in a minute each, we would allow one representative from each of the groups to give us a recap of the discussions they've had and most likely the collaborations they have established. That would be very exciting to hear about.
Okay, thank you. So for our group, we saw that a common theme was the issue of sustainability, even though we all operated in different sectors. So we concluded that we could collaborate on a project that looks at small entrepreneurs in the agri sector and possibly in the seed business. And we were going to look at sustainable business practices in that space. and also look at how they can embed responsible innovation in what they do. And then the issue of trying to come up with a business case for sustainability, where I think Esther's interest in finance could be useful in there. So that is a summary of what we came up with.
Okay, thank you very much. Sana, you're muted. You were saying something.
I was actually like, lovely. And Sena's interest in agribusiness as well could feature, So I'm just, connecting. Even though Karen didn't mention me, I'm still connecting. This is what they call classic ahoshishe in local parlance, right?
Don't worry, you are welcome. I think one person did not get the chance to contribute, so we agreed we would connect offline, and then he could also come on board.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So collaboration is already working both on offline. Thank you very much, Karen, for leading that discussion. So the next breakout room we'll look at is people-driven development. Can we please have the moderator or one person from the group run us through their discussion and a recap, and if there were any collaborations?
Well, in summary, in our groups, we kind of identify a couple of areas that people were interested in. One, for example, the issue of how to really look into administrative ecosystems and their roles in terms of effecting, the people-driven changes that we need here in Africa, both economically, socially, and even politically. And the other area was to really look at projects in terms of really how do we get let's say the young people to run these projects in terms of creating, let's say, the momentum towards that change they really want. And the other area, we also looked at how we can really now connect the issue, for example, of governance in terms of resource management. But as you know, nowadays we have this other principle or concept. There's a big difference between management and governance. So we were actually looking at now the issue of resource governance, and especially on how we can have the youth really drive the resource governance here in Africa in terms of effecting the changes that we may really want to see here in Africa. While we did not have like specific areas of collaboration that we could really want to get engaged in, one idea that we would like to submit to the Education Collaborative is to kind of like create a community of practice where we are going to continue to engage, not just here when we meet during the convening, and through that community we continue the engagement or the discussions, where if we may have 100 people there, then 2 out of 100 may choose to write on one thing and drive that project, and maybe 3 on working on another thing. But just to have that kind of a community to continue, talking about this, and then we come up with those different topics to drive that research. That is something we said, okay, we should propose this and submit it to the Education Collaborative and see how they would really run it, because that is also one of the issues was highlighted to really focus on. We can have this, but if it is not managed properly, then it may not really lead to the impact that we may want. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. And that was an excellent suggestion. We have thoughts on it. I will hand over to Senna now to touch on those thoughts and then also just round up the discussion.
Thank you so much, Esther. I am so excited. I don't know if my face is showing all of my excitement, but I really am. I know one of the things that we all struggle with is really balancing the 1,001 things that we do and still being able to do very good research work. And collaboration is key. But it is sometimes very difficult to find the right people to collaborate with on some of these efforts and interests and projects that we would want to promote. And so that really was a reason why we thought to propose this session to create this platform like a community that would start conversation around research collaborations. And so I really am excited that, we had two groups. One has a project already that they are looking at collaborating on. For them, I would say that usually, in conversations like this, because we are all excited, it's easy to arrive at it. It's the following up and the showing up and actually making it happen. That is what determines the challenges. So we will reach out to all of us and try as much as we can to help maintain, this unit and to see if something is born out of this. I'm sure I'm sure Esther and I would have a celebratory party when, like, the first publication comes out of this group, for example. On the second group, George, thank you so much for that suggestion. The Education Collaborative has a number of communities of practice, but yes, we don't have anything related to research just yet, and so this I think Rose will receive with open arms. I'm going to coax her and do everything that is humanly possible to do to get her to explore this as well, across the different interests that the Education Collaborative has, and see how. And I love how you put it, that if we have a community of 100, and please, the poll is in progress, so if you can, if we have a community of 100 and we have a situation where 2 collaborate, that is still a win. And so I am not looking at us, moving from 0 there, but I'm looking at us, climbing bit by bit and making this dream of, being able to collaborate at the research level also a reality for us. So thank you all. Thank you, Esther, for moderating the bulk of this session. Thanks to our volunteers, to our support, Elom and Sam, for all the back end work. You haven't rested. You can go and rest after we put the document together and send to everyone, and we have a system of keeping everyone engaged. Then you can rest. To the Education Collaborative team as well, thank you, and indeed everyone on the call, and thank everyone for sticking it out to this point.